Hola, hola, welcome back to my channel. My name is Roxanne. If it's your first time here, welcome. Today I want to do my January wrap up. I apologize if you hear a noise in the background. It is very cold. We have a snowstorm going on right now, so I have the space heater like right in my face. So the first book that I finished was The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I started this in October of last year, but finished it in the first week of January, and I love this book so much. It took me a while because it is a chunker. This is the first book in the King Killer Chronicle, and we follow the story of Kvoth, which is our main character. He is, when we are introduced to him, he's a innkeeper, and there's this man called the Chronicler who comes upon this inn. He's searching for him in order to tell his story, and so Kvoth tells him that he needs 3 days to tell his story. And so the first day of him telling his story is the first book, and then the next 2 books in the series are the following days. And this is very much a fundamental book. Everything in this felt very purposeful, and I was listening to audio but also reading alongside because it felt like I couldn't miss anything. Like he was really, like the Rothfuss was very intentional in everything that he was writing, and so I felt like I didn't want to miss a single detail because I feel like it'll all come together in the end. And once I continue with the series, I will think back about things that happened in the previous books, and it'll all kind of click together. And this was great. I have seen some reviews that this was boring or that it kind of drags, and I can see why people think that, but I guess the type of reader that I am, I loved getting to learn about this magic system alongside both the Chronicler and both as a young kid. So what happens is we have sort of present day and then the past both, and as the story goes on, we sort of get closer and closer to meeting like present day. And so you're sort of just thrown into this world, and you're learning alongside the Chronicler and alongside young Kvoth as he learns about this sympathy, which is the name of the sort of magic system. And I just loved it. I thought it was beautifully written. I love the characters. There are, I think, more female characters than in a lot of sort of these larger, more popular male written fantasies, but they can definitely all be much better developed, which I think is a pretty consistent critique of the series. But I hope that is redeemed. I hope that's made better in the second book. The third has not yet come out. It's apparently been in the works for many years now, so hopefully in the next 2 books those characters are better developed and better written. I just loved getting to see him grow up, and there are times in which you kind of wonder whether everything that you're being told is the truth, because as Kvoth is telling about his past, he does say that there are times in which he might embellish stories about himself, and it's all very much to do with the reputation and what people think of him. And that's how you sort of build to who he became. And so you sort of wonder, is everything that you're being told accurate? But yeah, I thought this was great. I loved it so much. I felt engaged the entire time. I felt very connected to all of the characters, and I can't wait to continue on continue on with the series. And so I think there's a line in the book which I think really encapsulates what this book is. And so towards the end it says, "We have all the groundwork now, a foundation of a story to build upon." And so that's really what this first book is. But the type of reader that I am, that was great for me. I don't need everything to be action-packed, and you do get action in the book, but it's very much, like I said, a foundational story. Then I read a graphic novel. If I keep looking down, it's because my notes are down here. I read Laura Dean Keeps Breaking Up With Me, which is a young adult graphic novel. Some of the themes that it discusses is it's queerness, love, manipulative relationships, trigger warnings for emotional manipulation, statutory rape, and if this is a topic that triggers you, abortion as well. Overall, this was an okay read. I felt like the story could have been told in a much more cohesive way. There were times in which you kind of it would jet off into different areas that didn't really feel cohesive to the main storyline, and sometimes we're not even fully fleshed out. So I a lot of times I would kind of question why the story was heading in a particular direction. It's about this young girl who is in love with this other girl, but Laura Dean keeps breaking up with her. She doesn't appreciate her. She makes her feel bad about herself, and it's about the ways in which manipulation can manifest itself in queer relationships as well. They're not exempt to it, and I think that those are themes that are great to be discussed, especially in the scope of queerness and in this age group, because I think that youth need to be more knowledgeable about this type of abuse and be able to recognize it and recognize the red flags. And so it's about our main character finding agency and being able to find her self-worth and remove herself from this situation that has just become this toxic cycle. And so I think the themes and the fundamentals of the story and what it was trying to tell were good, but I think the storytelling overall fell a little bit flat for what it was trying to do. But I did absolutely love the artwork. So then I read a collection of stories called Not That Bad, Dispatches from Rape Culture, edited by Roxane Gay. And so this is exactly what this suggests. It is a collection of essays and memoirs and stories about the way in which rape culture manifests, the way that it affects its victims, the ways in which sometimes family and even professionals, therapists, don't handle it well. And it is a difficult read, but it's a necessary read, and it is very frustrating that we still need to have these stories be told so that we know the complexity of it as a system and the way that it works and the way that it victimizes and punishes and it holds us back, and it is so painful. But I think until as a society we're able to understand consent and understand body autonomy and understand that you are not nobody's part. Nobody is indebted to you in any way. They don't owe you their body. They don't owe you their time. They don't owe you anything about themselves. These stories need to continue to be told and need to continue to be read so that we understand the different facets of it and try to circumvent it and eradicate it if we ever can. And it is very diverse in the individuals that are telling their story, and I think in format as well, because we do even have a graphic sort of novel-y chapter, which is great. So this was an amazing read. Then another nonfiction. It is Once I Was You, a memoir of love and hate in a torn America by Maria Hinojosa. Maria Hinojosa is a renowned and awarded journalist, and this is it's a memoir about her time. It's equal parts personal life and her career, and it's about the ceilings that she was able to break, the expectations that were put on her, the way that she was able to prove her worth despite a lot of people not believing in her and her having to face a lot of pushback. And I thought this was great. It had so much heart, and it will upset you a lot, because what she does is she really puts a mirror up to America, and she doesn't hold back, and it's part history, part memoir, a lot of heart, like I said, and I really enjoyed getting to know more about her. She, I think, is a great woman to look up to. She does a lot. She has a podcast called Latino USA, which I listen to relatively frequently, and I recommend it. So yeah, if you haven't heard of her, if you haven't read this, I definitely recommend it. Then I read the third in the Dublin Murder Squad by Tana French, which is Faithful Place, and this is a story about Frank, who is a detective in the undercover department, and it starts off with a chapter of his past in which you get to see how it was that he left home and how that sort of comes back to haunt him, and a lot of truth about that day is revealed to him. And Frank, I think, has become my favorite character in the whole series thus far, and I think she does it again. I love this so much. I love the way in which she is able to delicately talk about class and the intricacies of it and how it affects people. I think one of the greatest things that this book grapples with is what you're willing to do for family, what that obligation, how do you handle that obligation, when or should you turn your back on it, what do you owe family? And I think it was handled beautifully. I loved it so much. Again, it's a deep sort of psychological dive into these characters. It's very atmospheric, it's gripping. I couldn't put it down. I absolutely loved it. Ton of French has just become a favorite for me for sure. I read The Silent Patient by Alex McKillides, and this was okay. I'd had this for a while, and I think I purchased it on a whim, and it was getting all the hype everywhere. I don't think it deserves it. It was entertaining and it was fun, but there was nothing grand or fantastic about it. Definitely not like best of worthy for awards, in my opinion. This is about a therapist who, poor Taylor wants to poop now. Okay, I guess it was a pee, not a poop. He's probably like, Mom, stop telling my business. So this is about a woman who kills her husband, is charged with killing her husband, and then never ever speaks again. And then this therapist who is sort of enthralled by this case and wants to be her therapist and try and get her to talk. And so the story goes from there. And like I said, it was entertaining and it was interesting, but it wasn't like groundbreaking. It was a little bit predictable. And yeah, I mean, what can I say? It was okay. Like it was an okay read. That's all I can say about it. I think it's a great introduction if you have never read thriller and are wanting to sort of dip your toes in it. This might be a good entryway, but I think if that's something that you read a lot or something that you have high standards for, that one is only just okay. I read The Starlight by Erin Morgenstern. She's the author of The Night Circus, which is one of my favorite books of all time. And I did a full review on this. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I will link the review up above and down below if you want to hear more of my thoughts on it. But ultimately, though I was entertained and read all of it, and I can see what it was that she was trying to do. Ultimately, I was disappointed by it. What she tries to do here is a sort of ode to storytelling and to in multiple forms, in books and also in video games. But I think it fell short. It felt like she had the beginnings of great ideas, and so but sort of lost her way in the execution. We have our main character Ezra, who comes upon a book in the library of the university in which he's studying, which chronicles a memory that he has, that he vividly remembers, something that happened in his childhood, but that he doesn't ever remember having told anybody or anybody else having been there to experience it. And so he becomes a little bit obsessed with this book and trying to find out what the mysteries behind it, who wrote it, how did it land in his life again, and sort of our story goes from there. But like I said, I kept hoping that it would all come together, but it felt a lot victim to things happening just because, and there being no firm foundation for it in the story, which I felt to be a sort of cop-out. And so yeah. Then I read another graphic novel. This is a middle grade one called New Kid by Jerry Craft, and this is about a kid who is going to his first day at a new school. It's a private school and it's mostly white, and he's a black kid living in the Heights. And yeah, I think it does a lot of really great things. I enjoyed this a lot. It's about a 4-star read for me. I think it is a very sweet story with a lot of intricacies, which are great, because there were aspects of it that I felt like maybe the author was maybe a little bit too on the nose, but I think given the age range that this is written for, some of those made sense, and I felt also like there were enough intricacies and subtleties in the story so that it never felt like the author was looking down upon the reader. There's a lot of conversation about race, obviously. We talk about colorism, class, race-geared books, and so the difference between how books are marketed and designed and written when we have a black main character or a white main character, and how the genres in which they fall into, which I thought was really interesting. We talk about a lot of stereotypes, the white savior complex, fitting in, finding your voice, and overall I just thought it was a really sweet story with a lot of great things to say. It's the first in a series, I believe, so I think the second book follows another character in that we are introduced to in the story, and overall I really enjoyed my time with it, and I highly recommend it. I listened to the audiobook of One for the Books, which I think is book 10 if I'm not mistaken, no, book 11 in the Library Lovers mystery series. So this is a cozy murder mystery by Jen McKinley. Because it's the 11th book in the series, I'm not going to say too much about it, except that it was fun. Our main character finally gets married in this one. It's a romance that I had been invested in the whole time, so it was really nice to see. This was the most straightforward. Like, I knew pretty much from the get-go who had done it, but these are not really meant to be very complex or anything like that. It was enjoyable, it was fun. That's basically all I can say about these. That's why I keep reading them. They're a good palate cleanser for me. Then last but not least, I read The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland and the Ship of Her Own Making by Catherine M. Valenti. And this is the first in the sort of Fairyland series. And this took me a little bit to get into because she writes in a very whimsical way, and she tries to sort of, through her language, she's trying to bring Fairyland to life, and she does so in ways that are very, very whimsical and fun, and sometimes a little bit weird, and I found that I had to sometimes read things a couple times to really see what she was trying to get at. The vocabulary that she uses is sometimes pretty expansive, and I enjoyed that she was able to create something that was very fun and whimsical, and it never felt dumbed down or anything like that. It felt like she was very intentional with what she was trying to do. I don't recommend the audiobook. I didn't enjoy it, and because of the way that she writes, I had to physically read it so that I could really get what she was trying to say. But once I sort of got used to the stylistic writing, it was fun and sometimes funny, and I found that I enjoyed September, who's our main character. She finds her way into this land called Fairyland, and each chapter is a sort of different adventure within Fairyland. I feel like this would make a really fun video game because each chapter felt like a little bit of a side quest while you're in the sort of main storyline. And yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to say about this except that it was fun. I recommend reading it physically. Yeah, I don't know if I'll continue on with the series, to be honest. I enjoyed it for what it was. I feel like it's okay. I am okay with the way that it ended. I don't necessarily feel the need to pick up the rest of them. But like a 3.75 or 4-star. Yeah, I enjoyed. I almost forgot to talk about a book. That actually kind of tells you what I thought about it. It is The Princess Plan, A Royal Wedding by Julia London. This book is about this girl who is sort of she's considered like a spinster. She's old and not yet married. She's taking care of her blind father, I believe, and so she goes to this, she's invited to this masquerade. This foreign prince is coming to England to sort of find a bride, and of course, as you would predict, they meet, they fall in love, all of that good stuff. But this was very boring. This was very predictable. They had no chemistry. Everybody was very, very forgettable. So much so that I forgot to almost talk about this. Yeah, I mean, I don't recommend it. There was nothing about this that I really enjoyed. The only reason that I even finished it was because I was listening to it on audiobook, and it's pretty short. But yeah, no, I didn't really enjoy this. So I would give it like a 2. I gave it like a 2-star, but it could also just as easily be a 1-star because there was nothing about this that was memorable in any way. So yeah, there's this one as well. Overall, I had a pretty successful January reading month. I read 11 books, which is pretty successful. I read every single day with the exception of 2 days in January. And yeah, I don't know if I will read this much into the next few months because school is starting back up for me. But I read, of the 11 books that I read, 8 were in my physical TBR. So that's good because you guys know that my main goal is always to read all of the books that I have off physically on my TBR at the start of the month or at the start of the year. So I think I'm doing really well with that so far. So let me know if you've read any of these and what you thought. Let me know what you got around to reading in the month of January. I have already uploaded my February TBR if you'd like to check that out. I'll link that up above and down below. As always, thank you for watching and for listening. I love you all very much.